In my part for SMG4's Afterlife video, I made an animation which had an uncanny SFM look. I say SFM look because this is all made in Garry's mod. I'll show you how I accomplished all of this by examining the overall look, a few key shots, and then the animation. For the look of this entire part, I wanted to go for a sort of Dark Souls look, make it look tense, kind of dusty in the scene. The way that I accomplished this was by adding volumetric fog and some particles, dust particles. For the actual lights themselves, I used the soft lamps add-on. I actually used that for the entire scene here. If you want to learn more about that, I suggest watching a tutorial about it. But the novelty with this animation was its incorporation of soft lamps. And this was easily accomplished with the console command macro. I have a list of macros that I used for this animation. You can check it out in the description below. Now, to save me some time doing all the renders, I only did soft lamp passes here. I did not use light bounce passes. I still used the map to get the orange castle ambience lighting in there, and then I used an SSAO ambient occlusion add-on to add some shading all around the place. I also want to mention that because I used soft lamps, I had to render the animation into an image sequence rather than recording them directly with video playback. This gave me greater freedom in compositing different effects onto the animation post, which I will show soon. And I think a combination of the soft lighting from soft lamps and the volumetric fog contributed to the SFM look. So now let's cover a few key shots, starting with this one. Now I wanted to show a single take of all the characters failing the dice rolls in different ways. Since all the characters have a special perk about them, like magic bows, axes, I had to do more than just animate them. For example, here there are storm clouds and the lightning flash. The clouds are TF2 unusual particles, and the lightning flash comes from Dota 2. Now, rendering these alone with soft lamps muddies the particles. To make these particles stand out in a soft lamps render, I needed to render these separately, using either a green screen pass or a Luma pass. These were all accomplished by using 3 add-ons: the Map Retexturizer add-on, the Glow Materials add-on, and the Light Environment Editor add-on. I also composited some lighting into here, for instance, the flash from the axe, the lightning flash, and the flash from the arrow. Each lighting pass was rendered in GMod completely by darkening the map, and then using this particular add-on for it. For the cool parts like depth of field and motion blur, I used this add-on to generate my depth pass, and then I used Fresh Love Lenskare depth of field. The motion blur was accomplished with Force FFX Sapphire. It has its own machine learning motion blur algorithm, which I used to get some accurate looking motion blur. Now these are paid OFX add-ons, so you have a choice to use their money. Otherwise, I consider this as the cherry on top for accomplishing that uncanny SFM look along with the soft lighting and volumetrics. Now let's look at another shot that had a bit more going on with this. Now, this one was my favorite one to work on because it ended up looking exactly how I imagined, which was an anime-style impact hit. This one used many layers, so I'll show how this looks in Fusion. So then to kind of walk you through the nodes of that, we kind of start off with our outline, give you a Luma pass of that. I send this over to an erode and dilate node, and this is actually masked and modulated by this noise parameter here. And finally, I color this to a dark sketch black here, and then that's how we're able to get that composited on this right frame. And then we also add a bit of depth of field here to composite the particle effects back in. I have another node here, node tree here, and this is for the impact frame itself. I just kind of started with a flash, and then sort of a cool, like, grainy outline look, which was composed by a weird hatch shader add-on, and then I had a few of these nodes here for animating the inversion of the colors here. Let's finally look at this shot. This one is the reverse of the dice fails, but many of the same things are happening here. We have our base render, we have the lighting from some areas like the magic staff, the lightning flash, and some of the hit flashes here, and then we had our particle effects. Composite those all together and you get a visually pleasing shot, all using GMod renders. At this point of posting this video, this is the type of renders that you need to get the SFM look. It's a lot of renders, but we're already seeing add-ons where this type of renders may not be necessary. There's a lot of momentum going on with the G-Shaders library, and I'm excited in seeing how I could use some of those add-ons for our future animations. Alright, so now that we've covered the key shots, let's finally look at the animation itself, like this one. Now, when it comes to animating this in Gmod, what pops out to you? Is it him? Is it the aura? Is it the cape? I can actually take any of these answers, but if you're an animator, you're probably wondering how I animated the cape, and the answer is I didn't. The cape animation was all done using Blender, and the way I went about this is that I used my SMH importer exporter add-on for Blender. I imported this guy into Blender, and then I used the Blender Jiggle Physics add-on to add physics to his cape buttons. From there, it's a matter of tuning these parameters properly to get the right amount of weight and flap on the cape. Then I exported this back to Gmod, and lo and behold, we have a cape animation. Now, I didn't stop there. I continued using my Blender add-on for a couple of other things. For instance, we have her hair physics. I had this guy's jiggly body, and I have this walking camera motion. So how does that all work? I used the virtual camera add-on to get the handheld camera look, and this was done significantly in this one shot. Basically, I went to my backyard, took my phone out, connected to Blender from the virtual camera phone app, and then I did the walking motion. To ensure I was walking in the right space, I needed to import the map into Blender using the Source IO tool. From there, I used my exporter to export the camera motion into an advanced camera object. Now for the SMG4-like ragdoll animation, I used my own add-on for that. I affectionately call it the ragdoll follower. The basic usage is like this. This is the base animation that I've made without much of the sort of ragdoll motions that you've seen in the final shot. The process is I first make a copy of Luigi, spawn him in, and then what I do is that I load the Luigi's animation onto here. So I have this already sort of set up here. First, isolate the physical bones on another timeline. What I want to replace is the physical motion, the ragdoll motion of Luigi. So when I do that, I can play this back. Yeah, notice that Luigi is moving his face and his other motions. So then next, what you do is you select the ragdoll follower tool, and then what you do is select your controller entity. I call this a controller entity because they're the ones that drive the motion, the animation motion. And then I need to select my follower entity. So my follower entity is basically the ragdoll that will track the motions of all of the bones of the controller entity. So select him. And then as you can see, he's completely following the motion of the controller entity. Of course, there's a bit of a delay there, and that's just due to the physics collisions. What I do next is uncheck these bones. There's checkboxes here, and that just indicates that the follower entity will be following the controller entity's particular bone. So in this case, it's following the hip bone. I want to uncheck that, and that would just disable the welds for that bone. And once I do that, then notice that Luigi starts doing that, so you need to disable collisions there to prevent that from happening. And now you can see he starts moving around, and you're seeing a bit of the source engine physics simulator kind of drive the motion there. And then lastly, what I do is make the controller entity, the original animation, invisible. So once I do that, now I get only Luigi's motion here. If you're satisfied with how Luigi looks, now you can start baking the physical animation. So then you hit toggle record here while you have the what I consider the follower entity selected. I'm just gonna see how this looks. And then once we have that selected here, then now you have the sort of a ragdoll-y sort of motion with Luigi. It's driven by a combination of the source engine physics simulator as well as the original baseline controller animation that I've made. And yeah, that's all there is to it. This was used extensively for the cartoon characters as well as for some characters. Just having the source engine physics simulation drive my animation saved me a lot of time. I also did not have to record physics takes, I did it all in the stop motion helper timeline. And this allowed me to save all of these animations into an animation file that I can send to someone so that they can potentially sync their animation with my own. The effort into making this animation in a month and a half would not be possible without a couple of add-ons I made on my own. I linked my GitHub profile in the description if you want to take a look at the add-ons I've made there. I plan to make these Steam Workshop add-ons at some point after some testing, and I think I've done all the testing necessary when animating this, so maybe expect those coming out in the far future. The repos also has its own documentation there too, so if you're curious in using these add-ons, I suggest taking a look at them yourselves. I think in the far future, I might get some tutorials out there for how to use those tools. And yeah, I hope you learned a few things from this breakdown, and I hope that inspired you in some way. If you want to see more tutorials like this, you may consider subscribing to this channel. If you would like to support me, I linked my Ko-fi page in the description. Someone asked me to make a tutorial on this particular part where you see Luigi's eyes kind of sticking out like that, and the way that I went about it was using another model to do the eye motion. The model that I used was this Boopkins model that I have, which is invisible as you can see. What I've done was just kind of did all the keyframing. I made a copy of this Boopkins model. I made everything except the eyes, Luigi's eyes, invisible. And as you can see, what the Boopkins eyes looks like from the back kind of looks like this. So the eyes are sort of like inverted. Yeah, so then I had the eye extend facial flexor here, which basically made this sort of makes the eyes of Boopkins kind of scale like this. And I think I animated that to make the sort of eye motion that Luigi was doing, kind of like this, the telescoping motion that he was doing there. So yeah, I animated that part. It's kind of like a weird facial flexing thing, mainly just using the Boopkins model and Luigi's eye texture, and that was how I was able to make that part work.